people are potentially going to listen for an hour or give off halfway in the middle. But if they know why they're starting, they're more likely to finish. So I think it would be quite useful to sort of explain sort of what you do.
Okay.
So just kick off with that.
So I'm Matt Vincent, CEO of DVA, which is an accountancy firm in Albany on the North Shore. But in terms of what we do, we're not your traditional accountancy firm. We generally just work or try to work with just business owners, and we like to take a bit more of a holistic approach where we really want to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve. And we believe a good business should deliver the business owner what we call 3 freedoms. So time freedom, money freedom, and mind freedom. Now that's obviously different for everybody, but working with us, we generally work hard to understand what it is or what those things look like for a business owner, and then work with them. We do a lot of business planning, a lot of business coaching, etc., on top of just what we'd call traditional accountancy work, being financial statements and tax returns. But we also do app advisory, so we do a lot with Xero and some app advisory with HubSpot for other accountants and those kind of things. So, yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we do.
What like app advisory? How does one become an app advisor? Is it just a couple apps really well, or what do you mean?
So I guess a lot of accountants have probably fallen into some app advisory, whether they are aware of it or not, through Xero. So and MYOB possibly to a lesser extent, where Xero's model was push, get accountants to do the selling of their tech. So accountants sold a lot of Xero to their clients, but from there it's kind of ballooned to, we have to get you up on this tech. There's better ways to use it. There's other things you can bolt on into it. And so I think it was one of those things that got, I wouldn't say forced on accountants, but they were relatively early adopters in that space. And then, for us, we've kind of grown out to different pieces of tech that we've had a lot of success with. And then if we've mastered it, we can then obviously offer our clients support or people support in helping get them on it.
Well, it's valuable. I mean, the amount of businesses that have poor systems or poor leadership, it's quite common.
Yeah.
So okay, tech stack, that would be interesting. So what's a good tech stack? You can choose a specific example you could use yourself. What's some things to think about to have a very streamlined, smart business
in relation to the tech stack?
Yeah, like tools you would use, how you might use them.
It's an interesting one. I'm actually speaking at a conference in October to accountants called my presentation is called Getting Your App Stack Right and Not Perfect. And I think that's probably the crux of it, is that there's just so much tech out there that people can drown in. So I always think about, what's the problem that you're trying to solve, or long term, what are you aiming towards? And I think for us in our business, basically, as a business owner, I want the business to tick along without my input. And I have this mindset that I use called the ideal business mindset, which is, in short, is that most businesses, the people run the business. So you have problems when people leave or new people come in, etc., because you can have a whole bunch of knowledge walk out the door.
Yeah. So
the idea is that the system should run the business, and then the people run the system. So if you've ever read the E-Myth, yep.
Yeah,
so it's kind of that idea.
Franchise it. Yeah. Franchise without being a franchise.
That's right. So when I think about tech stack, I'm like, well, what is the tech there to do, and is it moving my business towards that goal of the machine is going to tick over and have consistency across your deliverables in terms of how you service your customers. The team know what to do and when to do it. You can measure it, and ultimately requires less, in my case specifically, less reliance on me as a business owner to kind of always be putting out fires or jumping into areas of the business that I haven't looked at for years.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a politician answer, but it was a hard answer to give because it's like, oh, you want me to just tell everyone my exact tech stack for my business?
Hey, I'm happy to share my tech stack.
Oh, go on then.
Yeah.
Do that. All your accountants listening, if you want to work with another accountant, they've got systems.
So how long have we got for the book? No. So I guess we run Xero suite.
Okay.
So there's 3 types of Xero that we have. One's practice management, one's Blue Xero, which most people know, which is the general ledger Xero system, and then one's Xero work papers, which is where we do all of our work pretty much. We run that. We use apps like Adobe Sign, those kind of things. But we have made a significant investment in HubSpot. So we have the full suite. So that kind of covers our, obviously our CRM, our marketing, our sales, and our workflow management and service modules. Plus we've got a whole bunch of automation tools in there. On top of that, we've got some, we use a thing called link reporting, which is basically reporting for accountants. What else have we got in there? Aircall for our phones.
Oh, you use Aircall.
Yep.
How does that work in New Zealand, mate? I thought, does it have a delay or anything?
No, I haven't had any issues with it.
I was looking into it. Like, I can swear if you don't want to swear or not be associated when I swear.
No worries.
I was just having a meltdown, mate. And carry on with your tech stack after if you've got it. Or is there more?
Yeah, I'm just
keep going.
I'm just trying to think what else have we got in there.
Got Aircall.
We use obviously the Office 365. We use a thing called Suite Files for our document management. So fucking heaps of apps.
And they all integrate with HubSpot, eh?
Yep. Yeah, some, not all of them. But in terms of, I guess, getting our work done and managing our client relationships, they all integrate.
Yeah, it's good. Like, because I had to learn Salesforce to use it, and we were going to use it here, and then we didn't. And I was looking. So essentially, what I'm doing at the moment is calling CEOs of like dream clients for myself and for other people. And so I was like, oh, well, this guy seems legit. Let's call him, and then add value to you, see what happens. That it was really slow because I had to fucking type it in. I couldn't log it. And then when I try to use this, you can use phone link between Microsoft and your phone, but it breaks every 5 minutes. So I was just looking for something. So maybe it's Aircall.
Yeah, well, it's I think the thing that sold us on Aircall, because we were looking at different pieces of tech with the integrations with HubSpot. So that was kind of a big driver for us. And I think HubSpot actually now own maybe 10 or 20% of Aircall. So I think it's part of their long-term strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got the inside scoop. Got the app advisor here, people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just leeching value for me. I think of the audience. But I think your story is also useful because I always find it fascinating how people choose their role. I know my dad's an accountant. I can understand there's joy in it, and you're helping businesses in a very technical way.
Yeah.
But did it start when you were 5 and you just looked at numbers and you could just calculate them in your head, or what?
So, yeah, interesting. Like, so my old man's an accountant.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, what led me to accounting was the lifestyle that he had. And I was, like, what do you do all day? And he's just like, I just talk to people. And but my story is working with my old man, I definitely, the things that we are similar at, and then the things that we are very, very different at. And so I take you right back. But so I finished school, went to uni, started studying accountancy, and I actually kind of was all good in the first year, and then I was just having a good time in the second year, and the university actually asked me to leave because I wasn't showing up and failed a few papers, and so I took their advice, although I didn't really have a choice in the end, and went and lived overseas and worked at some ski resorts and went to the UK and was living up there for a bit, just having a good time, and And then it got to a point where I was working in a bank and I could see a pathway up through the bank, but I thought, no, I'll go home and finish what I started, and came back with a little bit more purpose behind what I was doing at uni, and then from there it was all good, and got my first graduate role at a mid-tier firm, great people, and I learnt a lot, especially around the technical side of things. I had a couple of great mentors, and but it got to a point where I felt that I wanted to do more for clients than just churn out financial statements and tax returns. I wanted to understand what they were trying to achieve and where they were trying to go, and so my old man had a firm, and I'd been building up my own client base, and it just got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go down there. And so this is at DVA, so I joined in 2014, and I guess the mandate for me was to modernise the firm, which was what I would call a legacy practice at the time. Some really good clients, and that's where I kind of started to fall into what I felt I really enjoyed, which was more so the entrepreneurial side of things. So, hey, is there a way to do things better? Can we do more for our clients? And so slowly I got less and less on the tools, less and less accounting, started working on our business model, started to deliver extra services around more business planning and business coaching and the strategic stuff, which I found that I really enjoyed and had a bit of flair for. And so I'm really good with the numbers, but I don't think I'm naturally that way inclined. So I can read a profit and loss and balance sheet and point out where all your problems are, but it was more so the strategic side of stuff that really spun my wheels, and learnt a lot from just working on our own business or at DVA, and around leadership and margins and marketing and sales as we tried to deliver extra services to our clients, and then just found that it's what I really, really enjoyed. And so, yeah, now, the business does operate a lot without me in it. I get to pick and choose the things that I do.
Oh, watch out.
Yeah. I recognised in the industry, I kind of don't want to feel like I'm
You're
bragging.
Famous. I didn't bring the fucking signature thing. Autographs.
Yeah,
that's
but,
the word.
I'm chairman of the CPA Public Practice Committee because I believe in the industry. I'm like, there's some good change coming. I speak at a few events here and there, but real passionate about accountants actually doing more for their clients than just financial statements and tax returns.
How does an accountant get street cred? You know what I mean? Like, how did you? Because you're just sitting in your office helping a certain amount of people.
Yeah,
is your marketing, or you're out there, or
I guess. Yeah, it is it's a relatively. There's lots of accountants out there, but it is a relatively small industry, and I guess I just had an opinion and wasn't afraid to speak it, and some people listened, and but I've got some really good relationships out there, and I've had a lot of help with standing on some other people's shoulders as well to kind of raise my head up, and Dad hooked you up, eh?
You're just born into it, mate. Small loan of $2 million.
No, but he definitely, that was one of the things that I was lucky, is that I had a really good working relationship with my old man, and he has never held me back or tried to impose his will on what I've been doing, so which has been great. But just floating around, industry events like this is XeroCon, I met my mentor, this guy named Mark Jenkins, and learned a lot from him, and he's helped me kind of propel myself as well more in the industry, etc. So yeah, I think it was just getting amongst it, and meeting people and talking ideas rather than just sitting at your desk, churning out the work.
Yeah, I imagine you were a black sheep in 2014 when you came in and you had to change things and their legacy. What was that like? So
Well, it wasn't too bad because the firm had only started in 2009. So, history. My old man actually had another firm which he sold when he was about 50, and he was always like, "I'm going to retire when I'm 50," which he did. And him and my mum went and lived over in France for 3 years, and then he came back and was straight back into it. Yeah, so basically the firm had just started to kind of find its feet, and so when I started, the team was it was effectively the two directors, an administrator, and then a junior accountant. So it was relatively small. So I feel in terms of the change, yeah, there was definitely dragging some people kicking and screaming, but we were still in not an infant state, but a toddler state.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite a blank canvas, but
I was entrenched.
Yeah, and there was a really good foundation there to build and grow.
So you speak of this marketing and sales.
Yeah.
I've yet to see a remarkable accountant at this, so I would love to. What does that look like? What is your marketing? What is your sales?
So I guess from. So this is where it's interesting. For my business, we're kind of going into a new growth phase, which is going to require us to be a lot more focused on growth. And I guess our strategy at the moment is a lot around our referral and referrers. And but prior to that, a lot of our marketing was done internally. We had a good customer base, like good clients, and the growth strategy wasn't to bring on more new clients. It was just for our clients to take up more of our service offering.
Yeah, well, that's smart.
Yeah, so we've run numerous events where we get them in, 7 ways to grow your business, cash flow management, how robust is your trust. We did business.
Not robust.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell you right now, most of trust are just a waste of time.
I tell you what, it's one of those areas where it's something that I don't have a massive passion for, but it's definitely lots of work to be done there for people's trust.
We have one of the highest per capita of trusts in the world, and most of the trusts don't provide the protection people think.
No, and quite often that's an issue that we come across. Is like, I've got a trust. It's set up in a trust, and they need to be maintained year on year. Stuff happens, transactions happen that can just create a whole bunch of unnecessary risk. Circumstances in people's lives change.
They'll get a trust, put a personal guarantee on a loan or something like that, or they'll get a trust as a means of protecting a relationship property, but then live in the house that the house is in the trust, and then that person's adding value to it and they're part of it, and they think they're protected in a relationship property sense, and they're not monitoring it, they're not creating a degree of independence. Or creditors, they have creditors and then they make a trust. It's it's an interesting
I think, and that's the crux of the problem is that most people just see a trust as black and white. If I've got a trust, my assets are in there, then I'm done, I'm protected. But there's so many shades of grey and so many areas where things can go wrong that you really need to be on top of it on a regular basis and have some good support, which is hard to come by. A lot of solicitors are getting out of professional trustee services at the moment because they're worried about the liability. So it's like, well, where do people who've got trusts go? For us, we're getting out of our professional trustee engagements, because the challenge with those is that you are acting on behalf of like the beneficiaries, and I'm like, well, I don't even know half of the beneficiaries, and I want to help you who are the trustees.
Yeah.
So we take a different approach where we're like, well, we'll advise you as a trustee, right? We'll take ourselves out as trustees so we can actually advise you how to manage and maintain your trust, and we don't have any risk to the beneficiaries. So that's one way that we're trying to approach it. And I R&D'd that, which R&D to me is ripped off and duplicated from a good mate of mine. So that was the strategy. I'm like, that sounds like a good one. We'll do the same.
Well, I think initially trusts were a good protection for one, rest home subsidy care. So if you are seen to not own assets, then you can still have the government pay for your care. Now it's a red flag.
Yep.
So you got a trust that come in for you.
Yep.
And then the other thing was estate duty. You know, they didn't want to pay tax on if someone died. And so, I don't own the... Like, it was nefarious anyways.
Yeah.
It was questionable.
Yeah.
The only time, really, I think, if you do structure it correctly before you get creditors and you monitor and keep and have the right protocol, it still can be a good vehicle.
Yeah, I definitely... We are unwinding a lot of trusts for people at the moment on the basis that they don't actually have any real risk. So, you know, if you are a director of a company and you're in a risky industry, and a great example is if you're in construction and the trades, health and safety is a massive risk. Directors can be held personally liable. Then, right? So then having a trust set up to protect your assets makes a lot of sense. But if you don't have those kind of risks, then it's like, well, what are you protecting your assets from? You have the relationship property side of things, but even then, that's a minefield as well. Knowing that the relationship property rules, I think most people, when they're in a relationship, like, well, this is what I contributed on, this is what I contributed, so if we split it, we'll go. And I think talking to a solicitor I work quite closely with, he's like, there's about 27 different aspects that they look at when it comes to relationship property.
Depends on the judge too.
Yeah, exactly. If you end up in courts, it's a gamble.
You could be paying 150 grand a year spousal maintenance to help their struggling lifestyle. Which, like, I think the best protection for a relationship, even prenups, like, okay, if you get a prenup and you have a kid and you don't update it, so it's not appropriate and it's not fair. Yeah. It's not necessarily giving you the protection that you thought. So I personally think the best protection you can have in a relationship is communication.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. It's kind of like work on the relationship, right? Yeah, keep it together.
Yeah. But I haven't reached a huge amount of success and caused... I've upset people, no doubt. Often, actually. It's a talent. But to the point where they want to, like, get revenge on me financially. I always find, no matter how much someone's upset at me or disappointed, if I take responsibility and I'm empathetic, most things can be resolved.
Yeah. Yep.
But anyways, are you married? Are you in a long-term relationship?
Yeah. I'm long-term relationship. I've got a 2-year-old daughter. Yeah. So, yeah, not married, but I think I tick enough boxes in terms of, to say that I'm married other than having the wedding. Right?
Were you petrified? Or you found out you're going to be a father and you're like, I better run?
No.
Well, I suppose it's public. She might be listening.
Yeah, she probably will listen. No, like it was something that we wanted, and I definitely... Do you have kids?
Nah, I'm single. But as I say, don't take relationship advice from me. But
yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that, I think. Well, for me, just love the experience of becoming a parent, but just my daughters too. They cliches. Oh, they grow up so fast and all of that stuff, and they say it because it's cliche because it's true, and I've just really enjoyed just watching growth milestones of my daughter, and and I think it definitely possibly has mellowed me out a bit more.
Oh yeah, not as hard working or high strung. What do you mean by mellow?
Yeah, I think
you come home, you just melt. You're like,
I'm
sorry for being angry.
I think sometimes just the small stuff of just don't sweat it, right? Some stuff that'll bother me, I was like, go home, see my daughter, see my partner, and I'm like, Like, oh yeah, this is all good. This is all good. That stuff can wait. Don't worry about that.
Well, before we get into business, what's your advice in terms of, I mean, obviously you're a young father, but, you probably had some challenges, either worried, can I, support and contribute to the family while maybe you're at home or she's at home, can't make assumptions, but...
To be honest, that's one part of my life that's not an issue. Like, in terms of, probably did a lot of hard yards early on.
Baller.
Yeah,
That's why you're the chairman of whatever the fuck is CRA.
But old man who's a successful accountant who has mentored me, and I've got lots of advice. And I was a property owner in like 2011 was when I kind of got my first property. And
first property, you got a portfolio?
Not quite a portfolio.
Pretend tall poppy syndrome doesn't exist and just divulge. No.
But so it was kind of, when it came to the financial side of things, we kind of have worked hard and have been relatively fortunate to be in a good career, and it hasn't, the money side of things hasn't been too much of an issue. The thing for me that scared me is the peace of mind. Coming home, bringing stress, mind spinning on stuff at work, and not being present with my family was probably my main issue. And so I've had to do a lot of work on myself in that regard, so that I am a better partner, and I am a better father, and I am not missing my daughter grow up. I'm present with her there. So that was probably my hardest battle so far.
Interesting. There's a book, as I say, not relationship expert. I just quote smarter people. There's a book called The Way of a Superior Man. It triggers people. And it describes men and women not so much as a gender, but masculine and feminine. And men can be feminine or masculine. But it just talks about one of the most valuable things you can give a person is your undivided presence and your undivided attention. And I think that's something that is lacking in a lot of connections, because like, even if you and I are talking, it's hard not to think, what am I going to say once he finishes talking, or how does this impact me, or blah blah blah. And if you are able to give someone that attention and that presence, I think it's one of the most valuable things in business and in life. And that's my rant. But anyways, back to business.
But it just I couldn't agree more. And I think as humans, we're wired that way, to be like, what's in it for me? And I think if we can flip that and be like, well, what's in it for them, I think business wise and relationship wise, you'll have a lot more success and a lot more fun.
There's this concept that there's no unselfish act in biology. Whether you get the emotion, altruism, you're preserving your genes, like a but I think if you can make your selfish pursuit selfless, in a sense, so acknowledging that you're a human and you want to look after yourself. Like, for me, I'm motivated by helping people live fulfilling lives. It's similar to you. Like, I could look at the numbers of a financial plan and understand whether they'll be okay or not and what they should think about. But it's more like helping them achieve what they want in life. That's interesting to me. And the reason that's selfish is because I used to struggle quite a lot with my own mind, and I felt like helpless and like a victim. And in terms of university, I'll go to bed at like 9 a.m, and then go to the labs at like 6, and then I didn't even turn up to the exams. It's not that I failed, I just didn't turn up.
Right.
So I selfishly help others in that component because it gives me satisfaction and joy. So what's your selfish selflessness in your profession?
Yeah, well, I think Stephen Covey, to quote someone else,
7 Habits of Highly...
Yeah, and I think that the idea of living to serve is one, but I think the more you help other people get what they want, the more you can get what you want. And I think if you approach you're working relationships in that way and say, how can I get this person what they want, or what is it that they actually want from this engagement or this project, and start to think a little bit more about what it is that you can do for them, then naturally stuff will start to fall your way. If you have a client and you see them succeed, or you help them, let's say for argument's sake, fight off the IRD and they save them $100,000 in tax, right? One, they're just going to be overly grateful and ecstatic, and two, they're going to be quite happy to remunerate you for that service. So, yeah, I think for me, the how did you put it? The selfish...
Yeah, selflessness.
Yeah, I think it's just having a bit more of an outward focus and trying to understand what the person that you're serving is trying to do and achieve, and what you can do to help them get what they want.
I would add like a few things on, because you have those people that are giving so freely but so untargeted and with low self-worth, so they don't charge what they deserve. And then you have the extremes where, it's like most people's marketing is like a creepy guy in a club. They're trying to take you home without knowing your name.
Yeah. You'd
have to agree with that.
Yeah. No,
in your uni days, you might have witnessed other things. So if you are focused in who you help and you give without expectation, so you're not like, there's going to be people that come across that are it's just good to help them. They're a young bloke or girl on their journey, and you give them pointers and you get nothing out of it. But in terms of marketing, if you're targeted in who you service and how you help them, then you can have more of an impact. I personally think like focused activity equals results. That's what Greg always says. It's the guy I work with.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's one, understanding your value as well, and being confident in that.
What was your first time you presented a price? Did you shake? Like, this $10,000, $100 or whatever.
Yeah, no, I guess. Well, I'm just trying to think.
You're just too well adjusted and successful, mate. Your only hardship's being present. It's a good life, isn't it?
Yeah. I think when I started to get into, for me, when we started to move away from just doing the compliance and doing the business planning and coaching, that was something that needed to be marketed and sold. And so, yeah, that was kind of a new skill set for me. And one mistake that I would make I'd say the price, and then I'd try and justify the price. And there was just poor technique. And so, the idea is just state your price and shut up.
Yeah.
And then, it took a while, and I could tell that people felt like they were being sold to, and I'm kind of like, I don't want them to feel that way. And so just refined a little bit more my sales technique, but more so just spoke from experience. I'm like, hey, this is the success that we've had by, having a plan and having an accountability coach and those kind of things, because we practice what we preach. I wouldn't say, hey, as an accountant, I'm advising you to spend money here, right? So, I'm supposed to be keeping an eye on your finances, so I don't want you to be blowing your money. And then just, so we'll just talk from the experience that we'd had, and as we got more and more runs on the board, I just wasn't selling anymore. I was just like saying, hey, our best clients, they do this. This is the success that they're having. This is what we do. This is how we believe that is best practice in business. And then the runs and sales just started to come in. People saw the results and got the value as well. So, which is the main one. And we had a price promise on that. I'm kind of like, if I'm an accountant, I'm advising you to spend money and you don't get the value, I'll give you your money back.
Confident, even though you hadn't done it yet. You knew it worked because you did it. Or the guarantee came later, once you had a proof of concept.
No, I was happy to do the guarantee.
Yep.
But the thing was, I had great relationships with clients. So the first ones that I did were the ones that I, knew would one, value the service, but two, already had a good enough relationship with us that they'd be honest and give feedback. And likewise, I'm like, hey, if you don't get any benefit out of this, I'm happy to give you your money back. I've never had to give anyone's money back.
Yeah,
so
it's interesting. Eh?
Yeah.
I do that in financial planning too.
Yeah.
It's like, this is how much it is, but if you don't think it's worth it, don't pay it.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of de-risk it for them. If you believe that they need the service, right? First sale's always to yourself. So if you believe that they need that service, then de-risk it for them. If it doesn't work for them, then don't take their money.
That's an interesting thing. How what was your metrics of testing that it worked? You know what I mean? Like, so what were you doing? So you're saying, hey, I'll hold you accountable every Monday for being a lazy fuck, and watch how your business improves. Yeah.
So in terms of the metric, we would say like a 300% return on investment on our fees, right?
Oof, eh? First month?
Well, that's
on
the
Monday?
thing. It's to a degree, it is somewhat subjective, right? So we have got some wiggle room if someone holds a gun to our head on that, but quite often, when we're doing like planning with clients and the strategic side of things, first and foremost, they have no idea where they're going or where they're trying to get to. So there's massive value in actually defining what that looks like. And then generally when we dive into the numbers and when we do our planning, we actually don't spend that much time on the numbers. But most businesses I look at, you could probably find an extra 10 to 20% in revenue or in profit just by getting a little bit more of focused on what it is that you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. And, there's one thing as an accountant that I've learned is that a lot of people have no idea about margins, right? So, what's your revenue, what's your cost of sale, what's your gross profit, and what's that as a percentage of your sales? So people figure out their margins and it's like, well, what's the percentage increase do? What's a 2% increase do? What's the 5% increase do? And then all of a sudden you start to see those numbers. It's like, well, let's say, for instance, you've got a $500,000 turnover business, right? A 10% increase in your revenue or your margin can equate to $50,000 on the bottom line. So what's it going to take you to do that or achieve that? Let's turn that into a project so we can actually get that tangible result. So that's where we've, I think as accountants we're good with that stuff, but we're at DVA we're good with is we actually can help articulate that and turn that into something actually real for a client. What's the $50,000 project look like to you? Is that generating more sales? Is that getting sharper on your efficiency in terms of your margin? Is that cutting your overheads? So I forgot how we digressed into that.
It was the guarantee.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
But there was so my first ever client, I'm editing her podcast, and there's a price whisperer. This guy calls himself, and he increases people's business or revenue. I'm not good with the business stuff. I got no business acumen. I can sell, I can market, and I kind of do financial planning. Okay.
Yeah.
But he just tells them to increase their prices, which isn't necessarily... But he justifies it with certain processes and that. But what are your thoughts on doing more for less? In the sense that you're not charging less, but you're doing more for less people. So you're selling a number of products to the same person, and you're selling more. So you're more targeted with the clients that you have.
Yeah, for me, in my business model, that's what we want. With less clients, do more for them. Service-based and relationship-based models, it's kind of like there's a book that I read. It's one of my favorites. It's called Sapiens. I don't know if you've heard it.
Sapiens. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, really, really good read. But in there was one stat that jumped out with me, has always stuck with me, is that humans can generally only maintain 140 relationships.
Yeah, like a tribe, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of that, you think about how much work you take on, what do those relationships look like? And I'm like, well, in a work sense, if you can shorten up those relationships and do more for them, you're going to have a better you can enjoy working better because you're going to know these people better. You're going to provide them more value, and they're going to get more from you. But just that this, when you're talking about price, there was something that jumped out at me. And there's a couple of exercises that we do because I'm always telling my clients to put their prices up. And one question I always ask is, how many people say no to your prices? And a lot of them are like, oh, nobody. And I'm like, that's a symptom that your prices are too low, right? But then there's also this other exercise that we do where it works better in a group situation. But you say, you've got like the example we use is like a plumber. Right? And everyone to write down what the plumber's hourly rate is. And you just get this range, right, of low to high. People don't actually know. When you're running your own business, you have a finger on the pulse of what your price is or what it should be in the market. But I don't like the reluctance to put for people to put their prices up. If they're good at what they do, they provide a good level of service, they should be remunerated for that. And the consumer, in the end of the day, doesn't necessarily know your price compared to someone else's price. So then again, it comes, well, what are you actually bringing to the table? Forget everybody else's price. What is it that you're bringing to the table? What makes you different? What is that your value proposition to that person? And then have your price and forget about what everyone else is doing. If they don't want to pay it, then they're not the right client for you.
It's I think a good way to approach life in general is like deliberately try and screen out people you don't want to work with instead of being desperate.
Yeah.
Which is hard. You got to put the lights on, you got dead, and was there a third thing you were going to say about price and I interrupted?
No, I think it was one, the symptom of if people keep saying yes, then your prices are probably too low. And then secondly, quite often people don't actually know in terms of your field what it actually costs. So I think when you're benchmarking yourself against your peers, you can't be ridiculous like 1,000% above market, or perhaps you could, but just back yourself in what you do. And if people believe that you're going to provide them what you say you'll believe, and you back that up with results, then you can charge whatever you want to charge.
Just mad, eh? We used to do this test in sales. So I used to do commission-only sales and management, and I was an awful salesman that learned how to be alright, which made me a really good coach because I understand why I went from shit to alright.
Yeah.
Because I was, but anyway, no natural talent, just it's great.
Yeah.
And it was interesting how we explained the actual prospect meeting, or how we built the value will determine how much they thought the price was worth, as well as their circumstances. So you could explain it perfectly, your price could be justified, but money in their world, they hold it in higher esteem than someone else that might hold it in less esteem. But we used to ask how much they thought it was worth, and we'd know how badly we explained it, and how much value is just a determinant of perception as opposed to actuality. You still got to deliver it eventually.
Yeah.
But in terms of explaining it, and part of the main thing, no matter what you were selling, was understanding what they want from life, what the problem is that's standing between them and what they want from life, and then just providing that solution to achieve those things. But the important thing was how you integrate their values and their dreams into the consultation would determine how much value they had on it. I said a whole lot of nothing there, I felt like.
No. There's something that kind of jumped out at me there. Like there's a good sales technique that I learned, and it's quite a good change management technique as well. It's like it's called the formula for change.
Okay.
I'll explain it, but basically you have in brackets a capital D plus a V, right? And the D is what we call the dissatisfaction with the status quo. So I always think when you're dealing with someone, if they want their circumstances to be different, you drive up that dissatisfaction with the status quo, right? What is it about what you're doing now that you're not happy with? What happens if this goes on for another 5, 10 years? What happens if you don't reach that, right? take them into the valley of despair.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And then the V is build the vision for the future. How good would it look if you could do this? How good would it look if you didn't have to worry about that? How good would it look if you had time to do these things? And then the next one is a little F, which is for the first steps. So it shouldn't have to be a big first step. What's the first thing we need to do? And from a change management perspective, that could just be an action that someone's going to take or something someone's going to do differently in their organisation. Or from a sales perspective, it might be the first rung of your value ladder, for argument's sake. Let's just start off with this little service here and get some momentum, and then maybe we can build out into something else. And so that formula there has to be greater than R, which is resistance to change. What's holding them back? And I found that's worked really well, because if you try to understand what their dissatisfaction is with the status quo and really build that up, you'll bring to the surface their real problems, so you can understand them as a service provider, and then you can say, well, let's build your vision of the future because we know we can help you. How good would it be if you didn't have that problem? And then, hey, first step doesn't have to be big. Let's just get some action, get some momentum on it, and usually the obstacle is the resistance when it comes to a sales thing is the price, and then it's a matter of, well, you haven't done a good enough job articulating the dissatisfaction with the status quo, or building them a tangible vision for the future that's going to excite them and get them to move.
Oh, I love it, Because I just love people and understanding them, and sales is just a medium. Instead of having to get a psychology degree, I was just like, I want to see what this does.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's a few things in that. One, to change or to do a new thing, there's a lot of resistance. So that small step is not very much resistance. It's a small decision energy that's going to be used. And then the other thing is a story the listeners have heard quite a lot, but it's the story of the dog and the nail. You heard that story? Tony Robbins?
Yeah, I've heard it in a couple of different forms, but I'd like to hear you tell it.
Yeah. I'll make up a new one, eh?
Yeah.
No, essentially he had his favourite spot that he sat on every day. And there was a nail there that was uncomfortable. But he'd howl and complain about it, but never change, until it got to a point where the pain was so immense that he was willing to change and move to a new spot. And I find that about humans, is that they either change through aspiration, but mostly because of rock bottom, because the cost of staying the same is greater than the cost of changing. So was that the dog story you heard?
Yep.
We're reading the same books, mate.
Yeah. And that, kind of what moves you, desperation or aspiration, is my takeaway from that. And we do one of our events that we do, 7 ways to grow your business, and a lot of that is around change, right?
What are the 7 ways to grow your business? And you can plug your event. I can put a link in.
Oh, that's right. I haven't done a 7 ways to grow your business for a while. I'll tell you the 7 ways, but I'll just So always say, who's heard the saying, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. I like to go around the room and say who agrees with that, and most people put their hands up. And I'm basically like, you're all wrong, right? I'm always like, if you do what you've always done, you'll get less, because over time people get better, competition gets better, people find better ways to do things. So you need to be constantly looking to improve and stretch yourself and continue to grow. Otherwise, I think if I think about my industry as well, accountants, if they're doing the same things the same way that they were doing them 10, 15 years ago, then they will be getting considerably less. So I always think that's a good way to encourage people, hey, constant improvement and growth and change is just part of staying current. But the 7 ways to grow your business, what do you think 7 ways to grow your business are?
Well, 7 ways I would grow a business as opposed to the 7 ways to grow your business.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how to answer that, but I would, if I was to grow a business in this climate and you're a B2B, it would be about relationships and how do you use social media as a medium to access those relationships would be a new way to do it. And personally, I think podcasts are unique. They're special. People don't feel as though, it's the ego. They like to be here, and then you're creating content where people don't have time to create content. And then that leads to an event. and then that event is how you facilitate a meaningful connection and get clients. So I would interview my dream clients, create an ungodly amount of content on all the free distribution channels to get exposure, that funnels to an event and close them there. So I don't know the 7 ways. That's just what I know.
Yeah. So
so you hit me.
So that one, in terms of if I was going to pigeonhole that into one of the 7 ways, that's your function of marketing, which is in sales. It's generate leads, right? Yeah. So one of the ways to grow your business is to generate more leads, right? And then, so that's way 1. Way 2 is to convert more leads to sales. So your conversion rate, if you increase your conversion rate, it grows your business.
Makes sense.
Customer retention, right? Yeah. If you're able to increase your customer retention rate, that grows your business. Transaction frequency, right? So how often are they buying from you? If you can increase your transactional frequency, that grows your business. Your transaction value, so you're with fries with that offering, that can grow your business. So it's 5 ways, 5 increases, and then there's 2 decreases. One is to decrease your cost of sales. How can you get more efficient with the inputs to deliver your outputs? And then the last way is to decrease your fixed costs or your overheads, which most people are like, oh, that's the one I'll go to. But I'm like, if you're looking to grow, that's generally where you're investing your money. You're spending on more marketing, or you're investing in more team to increase your capacity. So always like, don't start. If anyone ever says I'm going to grow my business by cutting my overheads, I'm kind of like, that's the worst place to start. Yeah. But those are the seven ways.
Well, this is a quick event.
Yeah. Well, I think that I really enjoy the event because basically the first half is just getting people into the mindset like, I have to do something different. I've got to change. I've got to be open to working in a different way. So, and then the 7 ways are at the end. And I would like to get people to note down on those 7 ways what they think the value to their business could be. Because some, for instance, if you're thinking like an annual basis, like a real estate agent, kind of customer retention is not generally a strategy that they'll go after, because you don't generally have people buying houses kind of every year. So it's probably a longer term play for them in terms of client retention as a strategy. But their marketing and their sales conversion, that's where they'd want to spend a lot of their time, right?
They trigger me, mate. I'll be honest, because I love marketing and people, and they just put pictures of houses. Now, look, if there's any real estate agents listening now, and I made a few videos on it, if you want to take over the real estate industry, pick a suburb that's large enough and big enough with your dream clients in terms of, big houses to sell, essentially, and they sell often, and then become the mayor of that suburb. Because people aren't buying the house. They're buying the experience of the town, and they need reassurance that it's a good place to have a family and to live. So you have what's a good suburb? Mission Bay, is that a suburb? St. Heliers? I don't know maps. I just Google and I go. St. Heliers. You pick St. Heliers. You interview all the shopkeepers, all the teachers, the principals. You have them on a podcast, and you just do targeted campaigns and events. And a lot of those businesses would love to be surrounded by their dream clients that are within walking distance. So it's a self-feeding machine, and then you become the mayor of that town, and guess who they call when they want to see a picture of a house? But anyways. So
yeah. I like it.
You like it? Yeah. All right. I haven't done it, but it sounds like a good idea. Yeah. So 54 minutes we're at. What would be something that you would want someone to take away from this, whether it's a business owner that has that problem, that, what do you call it, the valley of despair?
Yeah, I think for business owners, if they are in that valley of despair and they are living their version of insanity where they're doing the same things and expecting different results, to really have a good think about what we call the 3 freedoms. Time, how much time are you working? How much time do you want to not be working, spending with family, those kind of things? What's your time freedom look like? Money freedom. How much do you need in reality, right, some people are just like, I want to be rich. And I'm kind of like, well, I know people have no money who are rich, right, in terms of their lifestyle and their relationships. And so when it comes to money, what do you actually need? And then peace of mind. What's keeping you awake at night? What do you need to change to have good sleeps? So have a good think about those things, and then if you're looking for a firm or a business to work with to help you realise those 3 freedoms, we're one, but there are others out there that are walking a similar path to us. So have a sniff around your accountants and look for ones that offer those kind of services if that's what you need.
Good, well played. And if you want an autograph from the accountant, it sounds like you're doing something. If you're free, we have a mutual acquaintance. I won't put their name on the podcast, but if you're working with him, he doesn't fuck around. So you must be doing something right if you're his
thank you.
accountant. Yeah. So if they want to find you, I'll put your link in the description. LinkedIn and website. Yep. What are the best ones?
Yep. LinkedIn and our website.
Cool. Yep. So if you don't want an outdated accountant and one that could give some ideas, 7 ways to grow in a systemized, easy to explain way, and it's only a 5-minute speech.
Yeah, that will get you in for an hour. Have some beers and stuff, or a juice if that's your preference.
Cool. Beer with every consultation, especially when you're signing the legal document.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, mate.
No, sweet. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me.